Bria, I'm going to pass the presentation over to you.
Okay, thanks, Hannah. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, great. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. As Hannah mentioned, please feel free to type in questions. We want to be sure to answer anything that comes up during the presentation. And really, Hannah and I both work together on the marketing team here at AEE, and I'd really like for you to consider us a resource for you. So if you have questions about ad planning or online marketing, before you go out and spend some of your hard-earned money hiring a professional to analyze any of those things for you, we're happy to take a look at it. We really like to get involved in our dealers' marketing efforts and be of assistance where we can. Okay. Sorry, just one moment. We're having some troubles changing slides on here. I might have to go to a abbreviated versions presentation. Okay. So just to get started on the course agenda, we're going to be talking about getting ready to begin a marketing plan for those of you that might be doing a little bit of marketing, just kind of some housekeeping things to make sure that whatever you do end up doing is effective, how to create an effective brand, how to track and measure your results, some things that you can do on your website, and then we're going to talk about 3 different social media engines and online forums, Facebook, Pinterest, and Yelp, and how to leverage those for your business. So first thing, creating your brands. When you're thinking about creating a brand, and for those that already have a brand in place and maybe you're thinking about refreshing it either visually with your logo or your colors, or you're thinking about updating your website, a really important thing to do at the beginning of it is to just think about what makes you unique and different from your competition. What is your standout characteristic? That's really what you want to focus on. For some people, it's customer service. You want to make sure that 100% of the customers that you work with are happy or as close to that number as possible. Maybe it's that you do really quick installs that you're in and out within a day. Maybe it's the fact that you're local and that you give back to your community and you're very active in your local community. Whatever that particular unique benefit is of your company and what makes you very different from competitors, be sure to really highlight that throughout your brand. And then what do you want people to know about your company? Do you want people to know, again, that you're active and local in your community? If that's the case, a great way to do that is to share company's personality. So show the photos of your team members. Maybe one of your lead installers also coaches Little League or is active in football. Be sure to post those photos on your website. Give a highlight to those people. Let them know that they are active in the community, that they're one of those peers. All of that helps people when they're making a buying decision realize that, this is a company I like to do business with. They're just like me, and I feel good about giving them my business. Another good thing to think about is to think about why you started the company. If you're the owner, that's a good exercise to go through. If you know the owner and you can sit down with him or her, that's a very valuable exercise. But a lot of times the original reasons why somebody started the company are very at the heart of how they're different, what makes them unique, what their core values, and what their brand should stand for. So those are all important things to think about. And then again, stay involved in your local community. As a local installer, you have a tremendous advantage over a national competitor because you are in the community. You shop where they shop. Your kids go to the same schools. You have the same likes and dislikes usually as part of that community network. So be sure to leverage all of that and let people know that when they invest in your business, they're helping local business, they're helping many stay inside their community, and they're helping someone that's just like them. So use all of these things that I've mentioned before to determine your colors and to create a logo and a message that drives your marketing. So a good example of this is, if you would like to come across as a sleek, really modern installer, maybe you work in a larger metropolitan area, a really sleek-looking logo would be appropriate. If you like to come across as being more local, grassroots, then you might want to think about, having something less sleek, something a little bit more homegrown looking, a lot more conversational personality in your content. So those are all important things to kind of think about when you're creating your brand. You want your look to match your message, to match who you are, why you started your business, and all of that should flow really nicely together. And then the most important thing is to just be consistent with your branding. So be sure that everyone on your team, from someone answering the phone to someone sending out the invoices to the people that are putting the panels on the roof, be sure that everyone's familiar with the brand message, that people know what you stand for, they know what your values are for your company. This makes it really easy for everyone to speak to those values and say the same message to customers. And that same reiteration over and over again to customers will really leave a solid impression in their mind. If you're doing a rebrand or you're creating a brand from scratch, I think it's really important to spot check the creation. So review the materials with your friends, your family. If you have some customers that are very trustworthy and close to you, review it with them. Be sure that the logo matches the values of the brand. Be sure that it all flows together really nicely, and verify that the message that you intend to send out there is the message that the customers are receiving. Are there any questions on this point so far? Okay, if there's not any questions, I'm going to move on to the next section. So tracking and measuring, one of the most important things with marketing is to track and measure your results. Time is just too precious and dollars are just too valuable to waste either. So it's really important to make sure that your money and your time are working as hard as you are. So tracking and measuring doesn't have to be complicated, but it is a very important part of your marketing program. So the main goal of tracking and measuring marketing is to just determine how many sales resulted from a specific spend or effort. One really simple way to do this, a very, very simple way to do this, is to create an Excel sheet, have the name of your customer on one side, their contact information, their email, their phone number. If you find that you want to start using social media engines like Facebook, you can make a note whether or not they're on Facebook with a simple X under the Facebook tab. And then have the final column be, how do they find out about our business? So maybe it was a word of mouth referral, maybe it was a billboard, maybe it was a website or your Facebook page. But it's really, really important to note those things. And then at the end of the month, just take a look at those things. See how your business is coming in and how people are finding out about you. And then shift your time and your monetary allocations accordingly. So if you have a billboard up and it looks really great and it seems like a good spend, but no one's really coming in and those aren't resulting in closed deals, then that's a spend that should be reevaluated. Whereas if you're spending a lot of time on your website and everyone's coming in through that medium, and you find that it's a really drive business and closing deals for you, then that's the place that you want to further focus. And then finally, look at who buys your services. And I highlighted the word buys there because a lot of times when we're looking at advertising options, you'll hear this is how large of an audience you can reach. But in reality, not everybody in a large audience can take advantage of solar. They may not be qualified. They may not have the cash. They may not have the credit. They may not have the roof space. They may not have the desire and the needed interest, along with many other things that are needed to close a deal. So it's important to look at who is actually closing deals with your business and then create a plan that targets them. So it's great to speak to a lot of people, but it's better to speak to a smaller audience with lots of people that are going to result in closed deals. So it's very, very important. That's where a lot of things like radio and billboard, you have to be very strategic when looking at those and being sure they're speaking to the right audience, people that are going to buy your service, not just people that will see your brand and not do anything further with it. Are there any questions on tracking and measuring before I move forward? Okay. So looking at your website, I know most people on this call probably have a website, probably one that they're pretty pleased with, but some key components on the website. The first one is a contact form. It's very convenient for home and business owners to be able to contact you. If you're working in the field, or you're out on vacation, or it's after hours, it's so great that when someone comes home and they speak to their spouse, they speak to their boss about solar on their home or business, that at any time of the day or night, they can go onto your website, put in their contact information, and know that they've already reached out to you. I think that's further important because things need to be done on the customer's timeline. So this allows them to have access to your business and kind of check one thing off their to-do list. Makes it very convenient to do business with you. The next thing is the company story, and that really ties back to the brand side that we discussed earlier. But who is your company? Who are the people that work there? What are your values? What value do you bring to the home or business owner, the clients that you work with? Have some install images, or there's some particular homes that you've worked on, meaningful charity projects. some testimonials from happy customers, ideally different types of customers, so young families, older retirees, single people, married people, men, women. You want to show a nice different bit of coverage across your customer portfolio. And then any press coverage and associations. So again, do you work with a local YMCA? Do you work with a, any local charity organizations? Do you do things for Habitat for Humanity? Do you ever write for a local community paper or online green blog? Those are all great things to put on your website. The things that make people stand out in your minds. They're also things that allow people to find that they are similar to you. So if they also have children that go to the same school, they are into the same charity, they're going to see you as someone like them and therefore want to do business with you. So it's important to put as much of that content onto your site as possible. And then use some basic search engine optimization. For those of you that have somebody managing your website, they've probably already done this for you. It's important that if you're going into a new market, that you mention that to them, that you work with them to be sure that you're searching well within that geographic region or within that area of service. One idea for this is to call out the names of your competitors on the back end. Again, not on the forward-facing section of your site where people can read this and see this information, but on the back end, on the coding. It's usually in the settings tab where it's something that can be done by your web designer to be sure to mention the names of your competitors. That way if someone types in your competitor's name, your website will also search for that. Are there any questions about the website before I move forward? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to move on to Yelp. When we do the open question and answer, I'm really curious to see how many of you have Yelp pages and how it's turned out for you. But Yelp is a really great forum to be present in. It's completely free to start up your page, and one of your customers may have actually already set up a page for you. So if that's the case, a great way to get started is to just set up your page. You go on Yelp.com, you enter in your information, the email address, your place of business. You can enter in your website, the category of services that you cover. If your page already exists, so if a customer wrote a Yelp review about you, you've never heard of Yelp before, you've never started a page for your business, you can claim that page as your business as a business owner. You just type in your business name on Yelp, yelp.com. You can feel free to do this while you're listening to the presentation as well. I won't be offended. And just type in the name of your business, type in the city and state where you're located. And if your page comes up and it was already created, there's a little link in red text that says claim this business. I'm the business owner. You click that, it sends the information to Yelp, and then that will unlock the page controls so that you can enter in your own content information, you can enter in or add in your own photos, and you can respond to any reviews that are on your page. Be sure to also put any other contact information. So if you have a Facebook page, if you have a website, be sure to enter all that information into your Yelp so that all of these things speak to each other. And then on your website, be sure to add the Yelp icon at the bottom or the top of your page as well, so people can see that visual logo is a good reminder for people. And then manage the content on Yelp. So keep the content fresh. You can post images of new installs on the site. If you finish something up, you can upload it really simply on your phone. And then encourage customers to post their reviews to Angie's List, Google reviews, and then Yelp as well. So a simple way to integrate this into your sales process is as the deal is closing, the system's already up, you're doing kind of your post-install conversation with the home or business owner. You can ask whoever your main contact for the project, do you ever go on Yelp? They may say no. If they say no, it's best to just drop the conversation. If they say, yeah, I do a lot of reviews for local businesses there, a great way to start the conversation is to just say, I don't spend a lot of money on advertising. I try to keep my costs low so I can pass on the best costs to my customers. Would you be willing to write a review on Yelp for our business? And if they have a positive interaction, they most certainly will be willing to do this. And it's very simple for them. They just go on, write a quick review. And then it's important for you to visit your Yelp page regularly to look at the reviews, both positive, and if there are any negative reviews, act quickly on them. For the positive ones, you're going to want to write back an email or a text or a phone call, a handwritten letter, whatever is most appropriate for that customer, and just thank them for taking the time to write a nice review about your business and to thank them for their support. If you ever see a negative review on your Yelp page, it's best to just handle this as another point of customer service. So respond as quickly as possible. That will show that you're proactive and that you actively manage the Yelp page and that you pride yourself on customer service. And then just answer truthfully whatever the issue may be. So, in this transparent world that we live in with, lots of communications now online in a public forum, it's just important to answer in a way that is very positive and to work towards the resolution so that this unhappy customer is turned into a happy customer. There's a further reading link here on getting started with Yelp. It's a quick article about how to get your Yelp page started. Again, this is a really great activity. If there's one thing that you take away from this presentation today, I would be so pleased to see everyone kick off their Yelp pages or claim them if they're already out there, and just take the 5 minutes to do that. It's very quick. It's completely free in lots of areas. It's really superseding the yellow pages and lots of those paid online ads and those old-fashioned phone books that you see now people using as doorstops. So this is really important. It's free, and it's something that can continue to kind of build momentum as you grow your business. Are there any questions on Yelp before we move forward? Okay. I'm going to move on to Facebook. So getting started with Facebook, for those of you that don't already have a Facebook page, I'm just going to go through on how to get it started. You just go to facebook.com, and they get started. So you choose your business category, enter in your business information, and then one of the last prompts is it'll prompt you to scan through your email database and invite people that are your friends to like your business page. So with Facebook, I think a really good rule of thumb is that it's a conversation. It's the same thing as any conversation you have with your customers or with your friends, that you really like for it to be a two-way discussion. So a good rule of thumb for creating content on Facebook is to mention things that people will want to mention later, either on their own Facebook or just in standard conversations. So interesting facts and tidbits, exciting news about the company. I had one installer. We monitor the pages a lot of times for our customers, and they had such great content. I think their front office receptionist had a baby, and they posted a great photo of her holding this cute little baby, and there was a lot of likes and activity. Another installer had great photos of him doing a local community service project, not related to solar, just giving back. Again, a lot of activity on the page. Then you see these pictures of beautiful installs of really nicely well taken care of homes, and these are all great pieces of content to put on your Facebook page. So just like on the story on your About Us section of your website, don't feel that it always just has to be solar related. Letting people know about the team members and what they're doing in the community, what they're doing in their personal lives, building this whole brand around your company is really, really important. Some of that has to do with solar and customer service, and some of that has to do with other aspects of your business and personal life. So be sure to tie all that together. And the Facebook, because it is your Facebook page, because it is a little bit more social and a little bit less business oriented, it can be a great place to do that. So in terms of managing content, ask your customers if they are on Facebook. Again, ingrain this in your sales process. Just as you close the deal, you finish putting the panels back up, you're doing the conversation. Are you on Yelp? You have that conversation. Do you happen to be on Facebook? Oh, yes, I am. Well, that's great. I'd really love to take some photos of your home. It looks wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that you're pleased with your system. Would it be okay if I did that and I could tag you in the photos? Once that's done, this customer can show any of their friends, anyone within their Facebook network, the pictures of this brand new system that they put on their house. So just as people take pictures of cars or other exciting events in their lives, the purchase of a large system is very exciting. It's a meaningful purchase for them, and it's probably something that they're excited to share with their friends. So by taking the photos and tagging them with their permission, that allows them to easily share everything. So one of the things that you would want to do is avoid showing their house number and their house address just for privacy issues. You can take nice photos that don't have this information in it, and then to put your business name in each of the photos. So system created by Bria Solar. That's a really great thing to do to just further link back to your business. You can even put your website in the picture caption as well. And once you get familiar with doing a lot of these things, it's very easy to do them on your phone even. So if someone else is driving the install truck, you're on your way back, you just had those 2 conversations with the customer about Yelp and about Facebook. You have the pictures on your phone of the home that just received the new panels in the system. You can just upload all of those to your Facebook page and do all those tags while you're driving back to the office. No need to fire back up your computer when you get home after a long day. These are all things that are very simple to do on your smartphone. And then to build your content from the beginning, you can post pictures of past projects, of local news, of industry news. Just sharing these pictures creates a lot of involvement. Engage with past customers. So if there's people that you feel like they probably are on Facebook, you can invite them to like the page. You can like their page, their personal page, but just kind of drives engagement. You can do the same thing with colleagues and industry contacts, and of course, we'd love to see you like a solar page, and we will in return like your page so that we can see all the activity that you are doing. And then drive to create group conversations. Ask people how their system's working out for them. Ask them what they're doing with all the money they're saving from solar. Ask them if they get questions from their neighbors. What's a common question that you get? What's your favorite thing about going solar? These are great things that kind of create conversation, make people laugh, inspire that kind of community that Facebook is looking to create online. And then finally, Facebook has a great feature called their Insights feature. So once you're on the page, you can use this to track engagement. So all that really means that you can see how many people like your post. You can see how many people viewed the post, how many people may have shared something that you posted, how many people comment on it, and then you can kind of refine your content. So if everybody seems to kind of gravitate towards more humorous content, focus on that. If people like more informational content and industry news, you can focus on that. And again, going back to our tracking and be as effective as possible with as little time as possible. Are there any questions specific to Facebook before I move on? Okay. Okay, I'm going to move on to Pinterest. So Pinterest is another online social forum that many of you may or may not be familiar with. For those of you that are on the call that are not familiar with it, if you're married or you have someone in your life, it'd be important to maybe think about asking them about Pinterest. Pinterest is very, very popular, as you can see on the infographic here, with women. The majority of people that are on Pinterest are women. About half of them have small children. The number that I really want to focus on here is in the upper left-hand corner, and that is the fact that their household income is over $100,000. Together with the marital status and the fact that they have children, that paints a picture of somebody that is probably able to put a system on their home. So that tells me that we could be chatting with the right customer when we're in this medium. And further, it's a new way to contact with your customers. So a lot of different brands are on this website, Pinterest, but it's very design and lifestyle focused. So you see a lot of lifestyle brands, a lot of clothing and home brands active here, a lot of like beauty and cosmetic brands here as well. So this is kind of new and different for solar. When I type in solar energy, down here on the lower left, you can see some of the results that I see. You have these great solar trees. I believe those are in Hong Kong. So there's some information there, but there's very little visual content that's interesting. The solar trees was one of the only things that I saw that was of particular interest. So there's huge opportunity on Pinterest for solar installers to own some content, to create some new content. So given the fact that a lot of people on Pinterest are women, that they're focusing on design and lifestyle content, some great pieces to put in here, I think, are interesting quotes, which you can see right here in the small little section I have on the page, and then some really beautiful installs. So if you're working with a homeowner that has a really nice looking home, or they have something unique about their home, maybe they have interesting gardens or interesting architecture on there, this would be a great place for you to put pictures of that system. So, panels on a roof by the beach, panels on a roof with a beautiful garden, or a veggie garden that's of interest, or just a nice looking home. This is a great place where people can go on if they're thinking about putting solar on their own home, but they think that maybe the panels are ugly, or they think, it's only for this type of a person, which isn't their type of a person. This is a great place to just get more visual information out there. And the way that Pinterest works, it works very similar to a corkboard. Think of it as a digital corkboard. So someone goes online, they type in their question, they type in solar panels, solar energy, and they can then take any pictures that they see that are of interest and pin that to their own board. Once it's pinned to their own board, anyone that's friends with them and following them on Pinterest also sees that. So again, this is a very viral way for you to share photos of installs, to get your company out there, to get your brand out there. Pinterest is completely free. The one thing they did last time I checked, at least, is that they ask you to request a page. So unlike Facebook, where you go on, you enter in your information, you create a page right away. On Pinterest, they actually do it more of a, they ask you for a request and they put you on a waiting list. I don't know if this is due to demand or more to just kind of create hype around it, but either way, there's sometimes a week or two delay before you're allowed to start up your Pinterest page. So don't let that be a problem for you. Just let that waiting period go forward, and they will approve your page in the end. Are there any questions on Pinterest before I move forward? I know this is kind of a new form for a lot of people, so hopefully this will come up in the Q&A section again. Okay, if there's no immediate questions, then I'm going to go and just kind of close with some ideas. So these are things that are very much common sense. A lot of people already do these things, but they're certainly worth mentioning. So first and foremost, be aware that you're always representing your brand when your logo is present. So one good example of this, if you wrap your truck or your install vehicle, your van, it has your logo, it has your contact information, it has large, really obvious branding of your company. I'd advise you to probably only do that if you're a really courteous driver. No one's a perfect driver 100% of the time, but if you know that you speed or you sometimes cut people off, it's better not to wrap your car, right? You don't want someone's brand impression to be that you didn't come to a complete stop at a stop sign and it kind of cut off someone on their bicycle or something. That's a very negative brand impression, and especially for local businesses, that can really make or break a sale and really give a negative impression. And then finally, provide exceptional customer service, treating people the way that they want to be treated. This is especially important in the transparent world of social media. So one poor example of this that you can go on most major airline Facebook pages, United.com is a good example of what not to do, I think, in your social media. And you'll see lots of people complaining about poor service they received from United, flight delays, ticketing issues, all kinds of things. And for the most part, unfortunately, the airline is pretty silent on the topic. They're not taking the time to reply back to people, even with something generic. And with the sheer volume that they're receiving of these inquiries, I know that would be challenging. But to me, it just shows that there's not great customer service with that airline. And you look at other airlines like Southwest that are very active and proactive with their customer service. It just creates a very different impression online, and you get a very different idea of what the brand stands for and how they treat their customers. So it's just important to provide that exceptional customer service. When a customer is unhappy, just make it a priority to work through that with them, to the best of your ability, answer that issue. And in turn, if you find that if you follow your competitors online and you find that they have negative customer feedback, reach out to that customer. See if there's something that you can do to help remedy the situation that maybe someone else created. That's a great way for you to win business, a great way for you to show that you take the high road, that you help out your customers, that you go the extra effort for them. And it really does shine in social media, very much so. And then make marketing part of your sales process. So at the end of the day, when you guys already come off the roof, you take a look at your books, you're busy, you have your personal lives, your family lives. So it's difficult to take time out of that to create marketing processes and to create your marketing campaign. So instead, just make it part of your sales process. Once the deal closes, you have that final conversation, mention Yelp to them, mention Facebook to them before you leave their home and thank them for their business one final time. And then interact with them on those online forums, on your phone when your spouse or friends are driving the car, your colleagues are driving the car. Take that time to do what you can on your smartphone and really work in a very time-efficient manner. Look at attending community and industry events. So if you find that a lot of your customers are young families with small children, it might be worthwhile for your business to look at sponsoring some children's activities in the community. If you find that a lot of your customers are retirees, look and see if there's a breast cancer walk or a heart disease local charity event that you can sponsor. All of those things just show your customers that you're like them, that you value what they value, and it just makes them want to do more business with you and recommend them to your friends because you're similar to them and people want to support people that have similar values, similar interests. be considerate and go the extra mile. It's simple, it's free, and it matters. So one good example that I used in my life is that my husband and I were doing construction on our home a few years ago, and the place was completely destroyed. There was drywall dust everywhere, and we had a window installer come in to put in new windows. And with the house being so destroyed, you wouldn't think it would be important to take off your shoes or to wipe down the windowsills when you're done. But he did both, and I don't know anything about installing windows. The windows are still in great shape now, so he must have done a great job. But I knew that right when he was done installing because he wiped down the windowsills, he cleaned the windows, he left a nice clean stack of business cards and a thank you note on our windowsill. And I passed those out to people in my neighborhood. And just as a lot of people don't know a lot about solar, they don't know if you did a great install, they're not going to know long-term whether or not that was done with quality. They're going to know right away how you interact with them, whether or not you asked if their child was napping, and if you could do larger sections of the install away from nap times. They're going to notice whether you offer to take off your shoes before you walked in. They're going to notice how you interact with their children or how you interact with their spouse, whether or not you make sure all decision makers are in the room and are respectful to all members of the family. They're going to notice whether or not you mentioned the landscaping might be in jeopardy or might get a little bit damaged as a result of the install. If that was mentioned ahead of time, then that's probably fine. But if they come out and a lot of their grass is trampled or beloved plant is smashed, that might give a different impression. So just taking the time to realize that this is their home, it's where they spend a lot of their time, it's their business, it's what they take pride in, it's what brings revenue in for their family, and treat that with caution and with courtesy, and value that as they do. That's going to really be extra important to your customers and really give a standout image. And then finally, check out solarreviews.com. One of the installers from a previous round of this presentation recommended solar reviews. Is apparently becoming pretty popular, and it's a good place to go and just be sure that, again, you have the brand image and the presence that you want on these online communities. So in closing, we're going to open up for questions. I wanted to thank you all for your time this morning. Again, as I said, myself and Hannah together provide the marketing support at AE Solar, and we really are here as a resource. A lot of our job is to handle the marketing for AE Solar, but we both are happy to be a resource for you, our customers. It's important that you know that you can ask us questions, you can contact us. My email address is right here. It's also on the first slide. It's hyperlinked on the first opening slide. So please contact us. We're here as a free resource. Before you spend money on things, we're happy to give you an idea. We're happy to look at your website. We're happy to answer questions about, how to start up your Facebook page. No question is too large or too small. We really love hearing from our customers. We love being a help when we can. So anything that we can do, please feel free to reach out. And I think with that, I'm going to turn over to Hannah to see if there are any questions.
Great. Thank you, Bria. Hope everyone enjoyed the presentation. Feel free to start submitting your questions. We've already had a few start coming in, and we'll try to get through as many as we can with the time we have. And just a quick note and reminder, there will be a survey that will pop up in a new window when you close out of the webinar. If you could take a minute or two just to give us your feedback, I will be happy to send you a copy of the presentation later this afternoon. We just want to make sure we hit all the topics that you're interested in and that you'll find valuable here as we take your time on a Friday morning. All right. Well, we will start off with a question here for you, Bria. What strategies should an entity deploy to cross-pollinate between Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, etc.?
Okay, thank you. That's a good question. So the most important thing is to reference back to all of your other activities. So on your website, it's really great to have your Facebook icon, your little icon, your Pinterest icon, your Twitter icon, your LinkedIn icon. All these things can also be present on your business card. You can reference articles from one forum into another, so you can have things automatically feed from Twitter and Facebook at the same time. You can then use that to pull the information onto your LinkedIn and create very consistent messaging across all of your different platforms. Another great thing is to reference one platform and another. So again, mentioning or noting a Pinterest pin, bringing that in, using that same image on your Facebook, and then also in your email signature. If you have customers, having all those different icons very small, kind of underneath your contact information, that just shows people that you're active in these different forums. And they may not be on LinkedIn all the time, but they may browse Pinterest on the weekend, or they may be on their Facebook on their phone and line. And just showing that you're active in all these different things really allows them to kind of pick and choose what they prefer and how they prefer to interact with you. So I always kind of consider it, you serve all these different things up. People pick the dish that they like and they walk away, they leave the other stuff. That's fine. You're going to have different people picking different things and seeing their content in different forums. So by having consistent content, maybe a little bit more professional for LinkedIn, a little bit more design related for Pinterest, and a little bit more personal for Facebook. But a pretty consistent message across all the platforms allows you to speak with different customers in a way that they prefer.
All right, great. Thank you, Bria.
Sure.
We will move on to our next question here. We have, referring to Pinterest, several times you mentioned to choose a category. What are the category choices?
So I think there's different options. You can choose that it's a personal page. You can choose that it's a service. You can choose that you are a beauty brand, a clothing brand, a home brand. So you can just simply choose the category that best fits your business. In the end, this doesn't really affect the content that's on your page. It's more just kind of back-end work for Pinterest. So that will all be in your Pinterest account setup pages. You'll see that information. And if you get into the Pinterest the setup and you have questions, you can feel free to email Hannah or I. We can walk you through components of it. There's also a lot of good information that I linked at the bottom of that page and online. You'll find a lot of good information about setting it up. But it should just be a drop-down option when you're setting up your Pinterest account.
All right, great. Next question we have, does Pinterest have a geographical search? My business is in a small town. In a real sense, how could Pinterest bring in business?
Sure, that's a good question. I'm not aware of a geographical specific that you can choose on Pinterest. I think it is a national and international forum, so you're going to get that large reach. But I think the best way to use this is to work with your local customers that you're already engaged with. So again, if you are working with, I think the best example for this is someone that fits the demographic data that we saw in here. So let me go back to that really quickly as a reminder. But right here we're seeing that a lot of Pinterest users are females, and they have children. They have a household income of around 100K. Age-wise, the majority of them are between 18 and 34, with a peak between 28 and 34. So if you have a lot of customers that kind of fit that young female with children that's married, that owns their home, chances are she's probably on Pinterest. So, engage with her and ask her, are you by chance on Pinterest? She'll probably say yes. And say, the install looks so great, your house is gorgeous. Is there any chance that you'd be comfortable with me snapping a few photos and putting them on Pinterest? I'd be happy to send you the link. That way, if you want to share it with your friends, with your groups, from there it'd be easy for you to do so. And I think that's especially important because people that are active on this forum, they like sharing, fun and exciting ideas, things that they're doing with their home, things that they're doing with crafts, things that they're doing with their children. And a system on their home is a huge purchase. So this is something that they're very much going to be excited about. They're very much going to want to chat about. And unfortunately, sometimes when you have small children at home, you can't always pick up the phone and call your girlfriends. You have to do it on an online forum, when you're holding sleeping kids or what have you. So this gives them a chance to do that. So I think a meaningful way to drive business through Pinterest is to, again, focus on that demographic, the younger female with children who probably is pretty busy and maybe does this as her children are sleeping. Post those photos, send her an email link to that, and just say, thank you so much for your business. Here are your photos on Pinterest. They look awesome. I hope you're enjoying your system. Feel free to reach out with questions or share this with your friends. I'd really appreciate it. Again, your business name is tagged very small in the photos, so anyone that sees that is going to be tagged. And I think if she is active in the local community, this is especially going to pay off. So if you find customers that fit this demographic and they have a lot of friends in the local community, maybe friends that you think would be good candidates for a system on their home or business, this is especially going to pay dividends for you.
Great information. Thank you. We'll move on to our next question here about Facebook. So someone here has a Facebook page and a regular account, and they're trying to transition people over to the page. Do you have any recommendations for transitioning people to like one page after using a different one?
Sure. So I'm guessing that maybe they liked your personal page and you want to move them to your business page, or maybe you switch business names. So a good way to do this is that you can actually go onto your new page. And I do this actually through AE Solar. So I'm an admin, of course, my personal Facebook account, and I'm also an admin on the AE Solar account. So I'll go through, and it says invite people to like this page. So when you go to your new page, it'll scan contacts from your previous page. So a lot of my friends that work in the solar industry, I'll send them an invite. People that are colleagues that maybe don't like the current AE Solar page, I encourage them to do so with that simple invite. And that's really easy to do. So you just look at the very top of your page, and it says invite friends to like, and it'll show your new page name, whatever that may be. So for me, I'll say, invite Bria's friends to like AE Solar. And then you click, it'll scroll all your friends and have their names and their photos. And then you click the boxes next to that, and that'll send out a mass invite to each person individually, inviting them to like the new page. Another great thing to do is to just mention it to customers as you're closing deals, as you're meeting with people. Mention them. We have a Facebook page with lots of great information, the latest info on rebates and incentives, a lot of information about our company, and we'd love to hear from you on Facebook. Keep that as a two-way dialogue. So encourage them to like the new page, and then encourage them to reach out to you via Facebook. So again, this is another thing where if a customer is at work, maybe they can't pick up the phone, they can hop online, type out a question to you on their Facebook page, to your Facebook page, and get a response. They can do that in line for coffee or what have you. And sometimes it's more convenient to kind of do that online-based messaging versus a phone call.
All right, great. And we'll go with another question here. Bria, what would you recommend for a ratio between posting things for yourself or posting what customers say?
Sure, that's a really great question. So when a customer posts to your Facebook page, unless you delete it, that'll automatically be there. So, assuming that it's not an influx of a lot of negative feedback, which I doubt it will be, because I know everyone on this line values their customer service, that's great content to have, and that's something that someone else is already generating. And then it is important for you to create self-generated content, whether that be photos of the team, photos of installations that you're doing, sharing of news and industry events. A great place to create or to kind of generate content is to like other similar pages. So if you like the AE Solar page, if you like the SIA, the local SIA chapter pages, the U.S. Department of Energy has a great solar page. There's a lot of really great industry pages, and you can just simply pull in content from them. So if you see a lot of great information about the growing solar industry or how it adds to local jobs, how solar is saving people money this way or that way, those are great things to post on your page. But in terms of a strict ratio, the best thing to do is to look at what's happening with your customers. So if you post things every hour on the hour and you find that a lot of people, as they probably would, unlike your page or unfollow your page, then that means you're posting too much information. There's too much content there. It's clogging up their feed. They don't like that. So I think a good place to start is, a once-a-week post, and then see how your engagement level is going. Are people liking that? Are they responding to it? And maybe boost it up to twice a week. Are they still liking it? Are they still engaged? That's probably, a good place to start. If you do it less, you might have people drop off if they forget about your page. They forget that you're there, and they, forget about the brand. So keeping in mind that once they do like your page, you're in their news feed, if you will. So when they're looking at Facebook on their phone or on their computer, they see your brand in there with all of their friends and all their other brands that they like. So as one small part of their lives, you don't want to dominate the content that's coming into their medium. I know that for me personally, I like the entrepreneur.com Facebook page for a long time, but they would post things 3 or 4 times a day, and it's like, that's, it's wonderful content, but it was just too much content. So I actually ended up unfollowing them. So you just have to find what's right for your customers, and the data, whether or not people are engaging or whether they're dropping off and unliking your page, that will tell you whether it's too much or too little. In terms of ratios, I couldn't recommend anything fixed. I think, once or twice a week, new content generated postings either from a third party or just unique content about your company, I think that's a pretty good place to start.
All right, and we have our last question today, Bria. If we're starting out with zero social media, what would you recommend be the one thing to start out with?
Oh, I'm so glad someone asked this question. Thank you for asking this. So I definitely recommend Yelp. I think going back to this is the easiest thing to start off with. It requires at least content management. So on Facebook, like I said, and on Pinterest, you kind of have to be continually creating this content. So if that seems like too much for your business, more than you want to bite off right now, go with Yelp. My uncle is a rain gutter installer, and he is not very computer savvy. He doesn't have a smartphone, and I begged him to start his Yelp page, and it's really paid dividends for him. So Yelp is definitely, without hesitation, my recommendation for starting off in social media. There's this link right here on the page, Getting Started with Yelp. Just go to yelp.com, say create a new page. Literally within 5 minutes, you can have your business name, you can upload your logo, any photos that you have on your computer or your phone, you can upload that, and then right away you can start asking customers to post reviews for you on Yelp. So you can go back to past customers and say, does anyone happen to be on Yelp? I'm really going back to grassroots marketing. I don't spend a ton of money. I don't, inflate my costs by the expensive advertising. I'd like to encourage you to spread the word of mouth of my business via Yelp. A lot of people are very willing to do this. One thing I will mention for anyone getting started in Yelp, be sure that whomever is posting the review is a genuine review from someone that's genuinely involved in Yelp, meaning they have done other reviews before. If on occasion you find that people that get started in Yelp will write a bunch of reviews from one friend or another friend that's never ever done anything on Yelp, and if you only have one review on Yelp, it'll kick that off. It knows that you're kind of trying to game the system, and it won't allow you to post as a new fake content or whatever. So what you need to do is to be sure that the person is active on Yelp, or they have other Yelp reviews that are live, that they're on the page frequently. That will allow the reviews to stick, and then allow the reviews for your business to be seen visually by everybody.
All right, thank you, Bria. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for the presentation. I think we'll end our Q&A session there. Don't forget about the rest of the summer webinar series. This is just the first one, and we will be running the series through September. So every other Friday, join us at 9 a.m. Pacific time for a new presentation. In 2 weeks, we have the topic Energy Storage and the Future of PV. So be sure to log in for that one. And you can register for these presentations in advance on our website, or the emails will be coming out right before the presentation. If you do have any further questions, feel free to contact Bria. I believe, Bria, you had your email on one of the pages listed.
Yep, I have it hyperlinked on the opening slide, and I have my email fully typed out on the last slide. So either one will work.
Okay. If you wanted to scroll to one of those as we close out, please fill out our survey that we have that will pop up at the end of the presentation. And I'll send you a copy of the presentation once I get your feedback. So thank you again for attending. Bria, would you like to close out with any comments?
Sure. Thank you, Hannah. So I just want to encourage everyone that, again, Hannah and I are here as a resource for you. We value our customers. We want to be sure that any questions that you have are answered. So if things come up, you get back to the office, maybe you're chatting about this with whomever handles your marketing, feel free to reach out to either one of us. My email address is right here, bdechico@aesolar.com. I'm happy to be here to answer any questions that you may have. So I look forward to receiving some emails from some of you and helping out where we can.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.